Michael's Birthday is the 19th episode of the second season of The Office. This is directed by Ken Whittingham, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And I really enjoyed this episode, not just because it was largely fun and funny, but also because it's quite dramatic and the pacing of different parts of the narrative. Absolutely fantastic. They just throw things at us when we don't expect it, and it's a very well-constructed, well-executed narrative. But also, it's quite funny. It starts off with Michael pitching a pyramid scheme. I had actually seen this clip before, and obviously without the context, before I started watching the show, and the bit I hadn't seen, and I obviously wouldn't have found that funny if I'd seen it in the clip, but the bit I loved in this scene is when Michael's trying to demonstrate it, and Jim just stands up without saying anything else and just draws a triangle around the little lines that Michael had drawn, highlighting the pyramid scheme. Brilliant start. The episode is, of course, about Michael's birthday. Phyllis, Angela and Pam are the planning committee for the party. Angela was so irritating in this episode. She did have one moment that I really appreciated, and I'll talk about that when we get there. But I found her to be exceptionally annoying in this episode. Dwight, obviously very excited that it's Michael's birthday, and Michael is even more excited, constantly mentioning his birthday to the point where it was getting irritating, but not in the sense that I wasn't enjoying it. Season 1, Michael, very irritating. This kind of irritating was more funny. And then out of nowhere, Kevin might have skin cancer. It just completely dropped the mood, but in a way that was very well done. And that is, of course, the second part of the narrative as we wonder. He's waiting for a call to find out the test results. And that's definitely shifting the mood, but it never became too negative. They managed to keep the mood quite light for the most part, and I think that was largely because everybody was supporting Kevin, everybody was there for him, everybody was obviously wanting the best possible outcome, and that was so lovely to see. Slightly awkward moment when Michael thought the delivery person was the stripogram. I'm pleased they didn't take that any further than they did. If it had become, I guess, a little bit too inappropriate with Michael, then it wouldn't have been funny, it would have been too awkward, but they stopped it just at the right moment when Pam said she would sign for the package. And then Dwight stands up and says, "It's 11:23, the exact moment you emerged from your mother's vaginal canal." And it just kind of took me a second to realise that Dwight was standing up talking about their boss's mother's vaginal canal, and I can't even imagine how awkward that would be. And definitely not something that should happen in an office environment. And then Pam and Jim are at the store. Nice environment, really bright, really brightly coloured. And obviously the office environment itself has a lot of very dull tones. I love the office environment, but it's a classic office environment. So being out in the store gave us something a little bit different to look at. And Pam and Jim spending time together alone is always really sweet to see. And they're there to buy things for Kevin to cheer him up, including 69 cup of noodles. And I just thought it was really delightful. What's not delightful is the really awkward whispering conversation between Angela and Dwight. And what I did love about this, though, Rainn was in the room with them, and as soon as Angela and Dwight finish their little whisper, all we see is Rainn doing the mockumentary, not saying anything, and his facial expression is just absolutely fantastic. I found that to be very, very funny. Dwight then brings out the cake. They're singing just as Kevin gets a phone call. I thought that would be the phone call with the news, but it isn't. But the bit that I did like about this, and the only redeeming quality in Angela in this episode, is when Michael was telling Kevin, "We're singing happy birthday, get off your phone," and Angela turns around to Michael and says, "No one cares about your birthday. Kevin's waiting to hear if he has skin cancer." And I just love how she saw, I feel like she always sees how ridiculous Michael is being. And if anybody were to stand up to Michael when he's being stupid and ridiculous, I feel like it would be Angela, to her credit. And I like the fact that in that moment, she decided that enough was enough. And I thought that was very well done. Michael then goes off and then comes back pretty quickly and tells Kevin 98% of people with skin cancer fully recover. And I wanted to look into that because I thought that would be quite a bold claim for the show to make if it weren't true. And according to the American Cancer Society, the 5-year relative survival rate for melanoma is for localized melanoma is more than 99%, which I wasn't aware of. So actually, including that statistic could actually give some people in a situation as similar to Kevin's. There's a little bit of hope. Obviously, don't take everything at face value and do research and talk to doctors, but I just thought that was an interesting thing to include, and definitely quite surprised me that it was as high as 99% for localized melanoma. We're then ice skating. Michael thinks it'll be a great way to cheer everybody up, but also it's his birthday. Lovely moment with Jim helping Pam skate and stay on her feet. Michael then bumps into Carell, who sold him his condo, and he starts bonding with her kids, which was a little strange. But Carell smiled at this, and she really liked this, and it's not the first time we've seen Michael behaving well with children. That seemed like a weird way to put that. Michael having fun with children. There's not really a way to say this without it sounding strange. But Michael seems to be really great with kids. And this is not the first time we've seen this. And I thought that was a little bit random, but very sweet nonetheless. And then Kevin gets the call. And it's negative. And it took me a second to realise what Michael was doing. He hugs Kevin, and I thought, oh, he's hugging him to say, this is brilliant, this is fantastic, I'm so happy for you. But he hugged him to say, we'll get through this together. And then Michael pointed out that apparently negative in the medical world means a good thing, which I knew, I'm sure a lot of people know, but it was never something I'd really considered before, that something being negative is not a negative in most medical situations. So a little bit of food for thought there. It did take me a second to realise what Michael was doing. And then at the very end, Pam says, it was a good day. I wonder why. To be fair, any day where you get to spend time at work, actually at a store and then ice skating, is going to be a good day at work. But I say that, I'd rather be behind my desk because I don't like social situations. But nevertheless, it's very clear that Pam enjoyed the day because she got to spend a lot of quality time with Jim. And I thought that was a really interesting way to end things. As I've mentioned before, I really hope we get some forward movement with Pam and Jim, or at least Pam and Roy, and realising that she doesn't actually want to be with him and that she's just been with him for so long that she feels like she just needs to marry him because otherwise it would be, in theory, a waste of a lot of years. But I'm hoping she realises that that's not the case. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But I'm not going to look ahead, but I am really looking forward to the next episode. And I thought Michael's birthday was definitely a really entertaining episode of The Office. Maybe one of my favourites so far. I'm not sure, I'd have to look back through them all, but either way, Michael's birthday is definitely a really enjoyable episode of The Office.